Yes, sir.
You can hear me?
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me?
All right, I got you. I got the microphone. Is it any better?
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, we're good. All right, sorry I'm late, man.
Oh, you're good.
All right, we ready? All right, let's roll. All right, welcome in to a weekly edition of the Will Wade podcast right here, a part of FM Digital Media. Good to be back with the coach, the general. Salute to the man here on this Monday, as we have a lot of college basketball news to get to. Purdue, the new number one team in the country, Coach. I want to get to Kansas and Baylor, who play tonight, but a weekend of college basketball and just the shakeout of it. What was your reaction to this weekend? A lot of good ball that was played.
Yeah, it was a wild weekend with Houston losing yesterday to Temple in a huge upset. I think they were about a 19-point favorite, Houston was, and just one of those nights they couldn't make any shots. They had a great look at the end. They ran a really good lob play. Same lob play. It's funny. They missed the lob play, and it was the exact same lob play that Buzz Williams ran at Virginia Tech against Duke, and Ahmed Hill missed it in the Sweet 16 in the game right after I was suspended when LSU lost to Michigan State. It was the exact same play that Coach Sampson ran, and they got a wide open look just like Virginia Tech did and missed it. But I thought Houston really struggled offensively. We talked about it last week, how well Alabama's playing to go on the road. I mean, they're just clubbing people on the road. I think all their wins in conference play have been by double digits. I think there's no doubt they're clearly the best team in the SEC right now. And then, the Big 12's just wide open. Huge game tonight with Kansas coming off 2 straight losses against Baylor, who's won 4 straight. I think Baylor started off 0-3 in the Big 12, and they've won 4 straight, including a couple big ones on the road. So that'll be a really, really interesting game. And then Purdue grinded one out yesterday against Maryland, had a big lead early and won 58-55, made enough plays down the stretch. I'm still not a huge believer in Purdue. I know they're 19-1, but I'm just not sure how well they're gonna hold up, and they haven't been really good in the NCAA tournament. I still like Houston a lot, still like Alabama a lot. I like a couple of these Big 12 teams, whoever can kind of come out of this thing. It's so rough and tumble. It'll be whoever can really come out of this thing, with as few losses as possible. But I mean, I think the Big 12 champion could be 13-5, 12-6. Almost unheard of in a power conference. So that'll certainly be interesting to monitor as we get into February.
Speaking of the Big 12, TCU going into Kansas, into Allen Fieldhouse, and winning by 23 points. It was consecutive losses for Kansas. For the first time since '89, they had lost in that building consecutive games. We've talked a little about TCU before, but how big of a win is that for Dixon and his program?
I mean, it's huge. If you'd have gone into the week, I think TCU would have taken a split. They were on the road at West Virginia and on the road at Kansas. And I think they probably thought they could win at West Virginia and would flush away the one at Kansas. And they actually got beat at West Virginia and then bounced back with a huge win. But he's got a really veteran club. He's got a tremendous point guard, Mike Miles. Just really, really good player, heady player we tried to get. When he committed to TCU, then we kind of pivoted to Eric Gaines, but we wanted Miles. First, we went up there to Lancaster multiple times to try to get him, but he's really good. Boz was out for some of the preseason, transfer from Memphis. Elite defender. They got O'Bannon, who can make shots. They got Eddie Lumpkin down low, who's lost a ton of weight. He looks really good. He was actually teammates with LJ Cryer, a kid we recruited who's now at Baylor, who's lighting it up at Baylor. And so, I think they've got a really good, and then they've got Miller, Manuel Miller, the kid from who was at A&M. And so they've just got a really veteran team. Coach Dixon's obviously a great coach. It's kind of like one of his throwback Pittsburgh teams. But you can't win if you don't have anybody who can beat anybody off the bounce. It's very difficult to win in college basketball. And having Miles gives them a huge advantage because they can whip people off the bounce. You can draw up whatever you want. If you don't have a guard who can take advantage of that mismatch or beat somebody one-on-one, it doesn't matter. And Texas Christian, TCU, has that, and that's an important part. That's why Baylor with Keontae George. That's why that's a huge deal with what they've got. And Kansas has DeJuan Harris, who's a great defensive guard and more of a facilitator. I think sometimes that's why their offense can get bogged down a little bit. I mean, if you ain't got a good point guard who can make plays and can whip people off the bounce, you don't have much of a chance. And those guys at the top of the Big 12 certainly have that.
It's a quarterback, right? I mean, it's essentially if you don't have a quarterback, you're not competitive.
Correct. I mean, look, the point guard, he's the one person who has the ball in his hands just about every possession. And so, I mean, you've got to have – there's no more important position you recruit than the point guard, and having a guy that can make things happen and make plays and make plays for himself, make plays for others, make shots. I mean, there's no more important spot in college basketball than point guard. If you look at the best, I mean, look at Sasser at Houston, and I mean, Mark Sears has been great for Alabama. They got Quinterly. I mean, they've got if you don't have good point guard play, I mean, look at Zakai Ziegler and Vescovi play some point guard for Tennessee. The reason Kentucky's improving, they've moved Cason Wallace to point guard, and he's been playing very, very well. So I mean, it's all about your point guard play. You got to have a few pieces around them. Arkansas has lost a lot, but having Anthony Black play well has kept them in the conversation with things. So point guard play is key. Just like you said, it's like having a quarterback, and you better have a damn good one if you want to win at a high level.
Back to Kentucky. You mentioned the Wildcats. They're winners of 3 straight. They just beat Texas A&M over the weekend. Toshibwe had 37 and 29 against A&M in his outing on Saturday. But you mentioned one of the moves that they made in playing Wallace more, and they've moved Wheeler to the bench more. Wheeler's a player that you're very familiar with, I know. What is this? Is this a major part of them kind of making a move here?
Well, Wheeler, I think, played 8 minutes against A&M. So, yeah, I mean, they basically kind of – but, look, Kentucky's got to have – when you've got Oscar, you've got to have shooting around him. And the best way to get their 2 shooters on the floor, which is the kid Frederick transferred from Iowa.
Yeah, CJ.
CJ Frederick, and then Antonio Reeves, who transferred from Illinois State, who's actually really good friends with Penson and Adam. To get those guys on the court, Wallace is your best defender, and he can handle the ball a little bit. You're just in a tough spot, and so somebody's got to take the hit. But you got those guys. You got Toppin. You got Oscar down there. I mean, that's enough. Toppin can hit a 15-footer. That can give you enough spacing to let him operate when you've got the 2 3-point shooters. Reeves hit a huge 3 in the corner in front of Kentucky's bench when it was cut to 1. So I think they're at Vanderbilt tomorrow, so that should get them to 5 and 3 in the league before the big game with Kansas and the Big 12 SEC Challenge on Saturday. And then I don't know what the back end of their schedule looks like, but I don't think they play Alabama again. They got Tennessee at home, which is we spoke about. That's a really good matchup for them. And so I think it eases up a little bit for them. And they can, they can make some hay. I think they'll definitely be an NCAA tournament team, and now they're just got to try to improve their seeding as much as possible.
Coach, the locals got to look at Tennessee over the weekend, and they have the number 1 defense, one of the top defenses in college basketball. They also have Julian Phillips, and you were watching Phillips kind of develop in front of our eyes. You can see his game really kind of starting to take shape. What are you seeing from their true freshman here at just about the midway point of his freshman season?
Well, he's playing better. He's shooting it well. I think he's like 4 for his last 7 from 3 in the last couple games at Mississippi State, and then the game on Saturday. But Tennessee's so good defensively. They got a good scheme. Ziegler can heat the ball up, Vescovi, and then when Josiah James is making threes, he's been hurt for most of the year, so he just got back, and then they've got, Plavisic down low, who's just a big old, just dirty, old school big guy, and old Kamwa at the 4, and I mean they got endless amounts of big bodies they can run at you. I think they're the most physical. They're the most physical team in the league, and Coach Barnes has done a good job with Drew, and he's gotten them a lot better, defensively and rebounding wise. And the offense will continue. To come, and he's certainly had some good games, and he's got a lot more good games ahead of him here in the second half of conference play. But they're a very good team. It's just, can you trust their offense enough in March? Are they going to be consistent enough offensively in terms of shooting the ball, making plays off the bounce? It's a big adjustment. It's an adjustment for Zakai Ziegler. He was kind of, not a spot minute guy. He played 20-plus minutes last year, but he backed up Kennedy Chandler. He could have Chandler out there on the court with him at times. It's a little bit like what we went through with Gaines. Some guys are better off, with their skill set just being a change of pace type guy. When he's out there all the time, teams can adjust to that one speed. And, I think how Ziegler continues to develop for them is going to be really, really important.
This part of the schedule, Coach, usually shakes up conference schedules. You're usually in the middle of a conference schedule, and then you go into like one of these games where it's a Big 12 SEC matchup or one of these. How do you like that? What was your strategy in kind of preparing for that?
No, I wasn't a big fan of it, but I mean, it was better to be in it than not be in it because the top teams played it. But no, I think it was. We went to TCU last year. I was disappointed we lost, but it was like, all right, like, can we get back to the SEC? Like, it was almost a waste of a game for us. But it's made for TV. It's important. The SEC, there's a lot on the line for the SEC because the Big 12, the Big 12's seen or numerically is by far the best conference in the country, and so it gives the SEC a chance if they could win this thing. And they've got some favorable, there's some favorable matchups. Texas has got to go to Tennessee, and Kansas is at Kentucky. I mean, there's some favorable matchups there for the SEC. If they could win that thing, I think it could help them, push their power ranking up a little bit with Ken Palm and in the net. I think it could help maybe squeeze an extra team in on Selection Sunday. If you're looking at 5, it gets you a 6th. If you're looking at 6, which I think the SEC is, it could possibly get you a 7, an A&M or a Florida or somebody who could emerge, that's right there towards that 7 spot. I think there's a big opportunity for the SEC with the challenge this year to improve.
Tabington tonight, Kansas, Baylor. This will be national televised, big Monday matchup. Kansas, for the first part of the season, looked like they were elite in the sport. How do you view them now after 2 straight losses?
Well, they're still really good. They're playing small ball. They're really good. And Bill Self's a phenomenal coach. They've got a little off kilter here with a couple losses, but I would expect for them to respond really well tonight. I think Bill Self's like 11-4 at Baylor since he took over at Kansas. This is a game Kansas is really, when chips are down, which they haven't been that often, they found a way to kind of gut these games out. Now, they don't have the overwhelming talent maybe that they've had in the last 5 or 6 years, but Baylor's obviously a tremendous team, tremendous program with what Coach Drew's done. But I think it's going to come down to guard play and then Baylor on the offensive glass. Can Baylor, really make Kansas pay for playing small ball? And then if Kansas has to counter that and put in one of their young big kids, can Kansas function, with just a halfway decent offense with the big kid back in there? And so I think it'll be a little bit of a chess match and a really good game between really two great teams, two great programs. I mean, those have been the two best. I think, Kansas won a majority of it, but I think, the last 15 years, either Kansas or Baylor has won the Big 12 championship. Baylor won the regular season, I believe, last year, and I think Baylor's won it twice. Kansas won it 13, 14 straight times. So, I mean, this is the two best teams in the best conference squaring off on Big Monday. It'll be the only major college basketball game going on at the time, so it's a huge game and a huge deal. And see Keontae George and Cryer and Flagler, those guys from Baylor, and then to see McCullough from Kansas and Grady Dick, and there's just going to be a lot of high end talent on the floor. There'll be 3 or 4 top first round draft picks on the floor, and be an exciting game.
Coach, it's awesome to hear you break down the games, and it's great to hear the insight that you have, obviously, on the coaches and players. But one thing that I wanted to talk to you about in meeting with you weekly or chatting with you weekly is building a program. Obviously, you want to get back into the game, and wherever you get, it's going to be either an established program or one that needs some reconstruction. But what are some of the things that you install right when you get on the job, whether it is an established program or it's not? What are some of the things that you are looking to base your program off of wherever you land next?
Well, it won't be established, I can tell you that. But look, I think it's different. You can't build a program anymore. You got to build a team every year. Like, that's just the way it is with the portal and all that stuff. If you're trying to build a program, the kids are going to transfer before they get any good. So I think every situation's unique, every job's unique, and you got to figure out, how you can win at that place, whatever it may be. And then, everybody talks about culture and all that. Culture is a bunch of bullshit. Like, just win. You got to win, period. You got to find a way to win. How can you win? Good culture is winning. Everybody's happy when you win. When you lose, everything goes haywire. You hear from people. Everybody's got ideas, all that sort of stuff. Whatever you're doing, as long as you're winning, it doesn't matter. That's culture, is winning. All this other junk and all that stuff, that just kind of, it is what it is. But that just kind of plays into it. But can you win, and what do you need to do to win? If you don't have good players, you're not winning. You can have all the best culture in the world. Houston's got incredible culture, and I love what they do, and I love how they do it and how hard. But that doesn't work without the good players and the winning. Yeah. They would revolt if they were doing that and going 15-15 every year. Right? That's just the way it works. And so I always say you can always ease up. It's really hard to start easy and get harder. So you need to take a hard line when you first get there, and then you can ease up if you start trusting them. But you got to figure out what you have to do to win, and win immediately. People are not that patient anymore. And so it's all about figuring out what you have to do at that situation with the resources that you have to be able to position yourself to win. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. You don't have time to develop all this stuff. The kids are going to be gone. People are going to be impatient, and you've got to have everything go right if you're going to develop something over a 3 or 4 year period. You got to have everything go right. You got to have kids stick with you. You got to have no injuries. You've got to have great development stuff, and you just got to have everything go right. And as you know, in life, most of the time everything doesn't go right. And so you better figure out how you can win there and go win. And so that's look, if I'm fortunate enough to be back, we'll figure out how to win at where we are and go win. We're not going to try to. We've got basics of what we do. We're gonna, we over me, respect, our basketball identity, body, mind, nutrition. Those were kind of our four pillars of what we did. And so, those don't really change. That kind of makes up who we are. But it's really just how can you win and what are your standards? It's like I tell our guys all the time. Everybody practices. Everybody watches film. Everybody, gets in and shoots extra at this level. Everybody goes to the training room. It's the standard at which you do those things that separate the people that win and lose. Even the losing teams are doing all that stuff. So it's the standard at which you do that stuff, the discipline, the consistency that you do with which you do that stuff that determines who wins and who loses. If you have low standards, you're not going to win. If you have high standards, it gives you a chance to win. Doesn't guarantee you're going to win, but low standards certainly guarantee you're going to lose. And so, that's at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's pretty simple. Can you go in there and establish that stuff? And you got to build your team year to year. You can't think 2 and 3 years down the road. That's just not the way it works today. What can you do to win this year? And then after that year, you'll figure it out next year. That year we lost Watford and Cam and all those guys, like it was too, everybody, what are you going to do? We're going to get in the portal and we're going to build a team that can win now. I mean, it's not that hard. We'll go figure it out. We didn't have a whole lot of guys back. You go figure it out. And we missed on some kids and doesn't always work out perfect, but if you hit on enough, it'll work. It's like, it's like the lottery. You have enough ping pong balls in there to get out a couple good ones.
Yeah.
And have a good couple numbers. So, I think it's the modern basketball's changed for better or worse. People can complain about it all they want, but at the end of the day, that's what it's about.
How frustrating is it when you lose and you hear from outside people with ideas as a head coach?
Well, I had a rule. I talk to anybody. I talk to your parents. I'll talk to anybody during the season. But my only rule, I had 3 rules. One, I wasn't going to talk to you the night of the game because everybody's
too much emotion.
Night.
Huh?
So
yeah.
Too much emotion. So I'm not going to talk to anybody the night of the game. That was my first rule. My second rule was I'm not going to talk about anybody else with you. So if you want to come talk to me about Johnny, we're going to talk about Johnny, but we're not going to go talk about Billy. And I'll talk with Billy about what Billy needs to be talked about, but I'm not talking to you about anybody else. And the third thing is, if you want to meet with me in person, which I was cool with meeting in person, your son or the person you're representing is going to be in there with us.
Sure.
It's not just going to be me and you. I'm going to have him in there too.
Sure.
Because a lot of times what happens is those people come off, and I've been protecting the kid on some stuff, and they don't know the full story. And that kid go, oh, no, we don't want to go in there with Coach. He go unload, because I had binders on everybody. I kept notes every day. We had binders on every kid. I knew everything that was going on every day. You were late to this, you didn't do that, whatever. We had them in a binder. And they knew I was going to pull that, I didn't tell everybody what was in that binder, but if you wanted to come show out, we
right.
2 can play that game. We were documented and ready to go. And so, look, when you're losing, everybody's got, different ideas, and everybody, winning cures everything. Winning hides all the BS. They're winning, nobody comes to you. That's why, the losing, everybody just comes out of the woodwork, and really you just got to stick to what you know, stick to your people that are loyal to you. And you got to understand where everybody's coming from. Everybody's coming from a place of wanting to help you, and they're frustrated too, and they want to try to win. But you get some wild things. I had a parent, I'm not going to say what school or when it was, but we got beat. We had won 10 in a row, and they just sitting waiting they were waiting on us to lose so they'd come meet with me. And me, I'm going to tell you what I think. So I sit there and listen. It was a mom. The kid was in there with us, and it was a mom and a relative. And I'm going to sit there and listen to everything. I sat there and listen. They're complaining about, whose hands I put the ball in the most, and blah, 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 all this stuff. And we just lost a really, really close game. And they said the reason we lost is I had the ball, and I let them go on for 30 minutes. I just stopped them at the end. I said, can I ask you something? I said, who missed the front end of the 1-and-1 that had won the game for us? I said, who missed the front end of the 1-and-1 with 17 seconds left that would have salted the game away? Well, yeah, he did miss that. I said, so what the hell are we talking about? I said, if he makes the front end of the 1-and-1, you're not even in here.
Not to mention the kid's got the ball in his hands with 20 seconds left in the game.
Right. Oh, yeah. No need for, he's the one who got fouled with 18 seconds left. We were up 3 or something and could put the game away. I'm just this is asinine. I just let them talk, let them get it all off their chest. And I'm just like, yeah, who missed the 1-and-1? I'm like, oh yeah. Well, that didn't matter, it's because, there's an excuse for everything when it gets that. Well, he hadn't had the ball in his hands enough the games before, so he wasn't comfortable, and he felt nervous when he got to the line. And if he'd have had, he felt like you didn't believe in him because you don't put the ball, it's never ending. You can't ever win. So you just let it roll and go. But yeah, certainly. Winning attracts a lot of BS too. You got different problems when you win big. You got to clamp down because you got all sorts of hangers on and all sorts of people that want to tell people and get people out of what they're doing to help you win. There's a lot of winning attracts a lot of BS too. Yeah. But the losing is everybody's got an answer. Everybody wants to tell you what to do. And so, yeah, it's certainly interesting.
I feel like I already know the answer to this question in just knowing you, but do you change your style in those conversations in the age of the transfer portal? Does the transfer portal change your approach to anything of those types of conversations, or? No,
we didn't give a damn who went in the portal. We go get somebody else. That didn't bother me. Mm-hmm. Look, I think if you're a coach, man, I feel a little bit different. Like, we never lost a kid that we didn't want to lose.
Sure.
I mean,
sure, yeah.
To a certain extent, like we never got caught by. I shouldn't say that we didn't want to lose. That's a bad way. We never were caught by surprise with a kid. Like we knew, like a kid wasn't happy or his parents weren't happy. We knew, like then we'd have to make a decision. All right, are we going to go try to get this cat back, which we would go do sometimes and get him back. Or are we just going to let them walk and not put up much of a fight? And we would do that as well. But nobody ever called a meeting and I was like, oh my gosh, what's he meeting with me on? Like, I would know now, like, all right, these are 2 or 3 that I'm going to have to fight to go get back next year, but I want them back. These are 2 or 3 that I really don't, they may leave. But I don't give a damn. Let them walk. I'm not putting up any fight for them. Yeah. And then here's the 5 or 6 guys we're going to target to go replace these guys. Like, I had a guy on my staff. That's what he was the best at. And he would be putting together lists and looking through stuff and finding stuff. And here's what we think we're going to need to do. Like, there was 2 or 3 kids off last year's team. They I was going to have to go get them back. Uh-huh. Now, we were going to get them back. We'd have gotten them back, but there was 2 or 3 we're going to let walk. Mm-hmm. And that's just the nature of it. And yeah, I'm not listen, if you're nice to them, you're mean to them, or you're anywhere in between, the decision at the end of the year is going to be the same. You can be as nice as you want to be. They're still transferring. You can be as mean to them as you want to be. They're still going to transfer.
Right.
It doesn't matter. So just do what you do, run it how you want to run it, and it'll work out. I mean, we had a bunch of guys that were gonna come back. There was 2 or 3 that we were going to have to convince to come back. There's 2 or 3 we were going to let roll so we could open up some scholarships and get better. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to replace the bottom of your roster. If it ain't producing, it ain't producing, and you got to replace them. And with the portal now and some of the other things, I mean, it's relatively simple to do. So. I don't know. I look at it a lot differently than most of them, but that stuff didn't bother me. I don't think you should ever get caught by surprise. There's not one kid who we were caught by surprise when they left. Now, some of them we had multiple meetings with to see if we could work through it, and at the end of the day, I'm honest. I'm honest with them. I tell them, like, hey, this is what I think. This is where it is, and if you want to stay, that's great. We'd love to have you. If you don't, that's great. We'll support you and help you go anywhere else. That's the other thing. I mean, I was going to sign a waiver. Every single one of our kids was immediately eligible who left us. We weren't trying to hold anybody back. We weren't trying to mess with them like some of these coaches do. If you want to leave, leave. And we're going to support you. I mean, I still talk to a lot of our kids who transferred. Yeah. I still talk to almost all of them, all the time. They text me, they call me, they still ask me I still talk to almost all of them. And so, you just leave it well and no hard feelings. It is what it is. It's a better opportunity for them, and it's an opportunity for us to get better too.
I think I told you this when it was going on, but Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, formerly Chris Jackson, is my favorite athlete of all time, just growing up. He made such an indelible mark on me. I was, like my son's age right now, 10, 11, 12, when he was here in Baton Rouge, just lighting up the scoreboard, lighting up college basketball. During your time in Baton Rouge, his number was retired, and now Showtime is about to debut a documentary on him called Stand. There is an incredible cast in this documentary, people that have been resourced to talk about him, from Steph Curry to Shaquille O'Neal and on down the line. Tell me about your relationship with Mahmoud and what you remember of him growing up in Nashville, watching LSU play, and the type of player he is, and what the mark has left on the game from him that he's still.
Well, when we retired, when LSU retired his jersey, I showed a bunch of clips to our team, and I was trying to explain to him, like, guys, this is Steph Curry before Steph Curry. Like, that's who this is. And he was awesome. He spoke with our guys. I mean, he was tremendous, and he loves LSU. He loves spending time at LSU. But I mean, he was one of the best players in SEC history, not just LSU history, but SEC history, and just a phenomenal talent, phenomenal scorer. From Southern Mississippi, there right outside Biloxi, and just a great person, man. He was fun to be around. He's very humble for as good as he was and as good as he is. He still trains kids. He still works out hard. He's still in the gym. I mean, he's still got a lot. He's still got a lot going on. But just a great ambassador, great player. And it's funny that these guys today, they don't know anything about like the history of the game, I couldn't believe like some of the stuff I would tell them, and they'd be like, "No, I didn't know that, coach." I'm like, "Golly, that was like 20 years ago. What do you mean you don't know that?" But the kids, it's just all what's now and who's now. And you got to put it in terms that they understand. Like, hey, this was Steph Curry before Steph. You got to put it in those terms. But our guys had great respect for him after they watched the videos and that sort of stuff. I asked him after, I said, "Y'all want to challenge him one-on-one when he comes?" No, coach, we're good. No, he's tremendous player.
What's it been like traveling and watching hoop around the country? I know you've had a chance to kind of get out.
Good fun. Shoot, I went to Coach Jones's game on Saturday. I went to Texas Southern and Alabama A&M in Huntsville. It's about an hour and a half. I live in Chattanooga, as you know, so it wasn't far. And I went to the hotel. And Chambers, who worked with me, he's with Coach Jones now, and I know Quantas White's brother's with him. Sharon Chapman, who I know well, is with him. So anyway, we all said I went to the game, and Alabama A&M's got a beautiful new arena. And Coach Jones and them got a huge win, and they got a big game tonight at Alabama State. But it was fun seeing him, and fun hanging out. He was always really supportive of us, and really supportive of the basketball program. So we had a good time and got to hang out with him before the game and after the game a little bit. And so this week I'm going out. I'm going to watch Bill's team play. He's got the #1 high school team in the country. My former assistant. So they play in a huge tournament out in Phoenix. So I'm going to go out to Phoenix this week and see Bill and see his crew. And then they actually play in Chattanooga in a couple of weeks, so I'll get to see them again. I went to a couple of their preseason games. And so it's been good getting around. I went to UCLA, USC a couple of weeks ago out in LA. That was fun. So it was, it's been fun, be a fan and get out there and get around and watch some stuff. And certainly I've got some other responsibilities to go with it every once in a while, but it's been good to get out there and see things and see people and get some new ideas and get some fresh ideas on things. But I've enjoyed it.
Wow, what comes along with coaching the #1 high school team in the country? I'd imagine that's probably like a college feel to it, right?
Oh yeah, he's got his point guards committed to Let me get this right. His point guards committed to North Carolina. His 2 guards committed to Baylor.
What's the name of the school?
Link Academy. His 3-man's coming to LSU. Very good player, Corey Chest from New Orleans. Cade Phillips, his big kid. He's his 5-man. He's committed to Tennessee. Cam Carr, he plays all over the place for him. He's committed to Tennessee. All of a sudden, Bill and Rick Barnes are friends, I guess. But His, one of his other four men who just got healthy, he's committed to Oklahoma. I mean, he's got like Bill. I joked with him because Bill would you know how I am, Jordy. I wanted players on top of players. I wanted it like Noah's Ark, two of everything.
Right.
And Bill would always sit to me in meetings, like he'd sit there in the meetings and be like, well, God, we got to have some role players. We got to have role players. Like, we can't just have all these guys. We got to have some role players. So Bill starts recruiting his team. I called and said, damn, Bill, what happened to having role players? So now you're the head coach. You want two deep at every position. He's like, yeah, that role players, that's for the birds. Don't worry about that. Okay?
You were right the whole time.
I said, you got high majors at every spot. But no, he's done an incredible. Nick Flory, who was our GA, Fran Flory's son, the volleyball coach, former volleyball coach. He's up there with Bill, one of the assistants. And they're doing an awesome job. They're 19-0. Got big games in Phoenix, and they got a huge game the next weekend against Montverde. But they've knocked off Sunrise last week in front of like 10,000 people in Springfield, Missouri, at the Bass Pro Shops tournament. So tournament of champions. So I mean, he's done an awesome job. It's the same program that Julian Phillips. It's a small world. Julian Phillips went there, and the coach left and is an assistant at Kansas State for Jerome Tang right now, and they're just killing it. The coach is a really good coach, Rodney Terry. Yeah. Rodney Perry. Rodney Terry's at Texas, but Rodney Perry. And so, Bill's done a phenomenal job there, and he's got players. He's got really good players, and puts them in good schemes, and they're pressing and switching and doing everything Bill knows how to do. So they're I'm excited to see them this weekend. I'm flying out there Thursday. I'm excited to get out there and see them.
Yeah, TCU seems like a team that you probably don't want to run into in March. Like, they look like they're kind of steamrolling towards playing their best at the right time.
Yeah, they're picking up some momentum for sure. You know, you get the sense they're picking up momentum, and they're going to be a tough out. Like I said, you got good guard play with Miles and some of those guys. I mean, they're tough to beat. You know, people forget. I mean, they had Arizona beat last year in the NCAA tournament in the second round, and Arizona kind of pulled it out there in San Diego. But they're built, the way they play, the way they're built is built for tournament basketball. I think they'll be very successful.
Yeah. You obviously were at LSU during 2019 and were close to that football run, and I know Joe Burrow was somebody that you kind of watched and saw his routine, his regimen, and somebody that you very much respected in how he got prepared week in, week out. What do you make of him going to a second AFC championship game in just his third season in the NFL?
How about the swagger he's got? That's what I like. He's got some pop to him. Like, he got some swagger. But I mean, well, I think I saw a stat, like they've won 5 playoff games with Burrow, and they'd won like 5 playoff games in like their history before that or something like that, or since like the 70s or something crazy. I mean, look, he just permeates the organization. He permeates everything that they do, and just a phenomenal player. But he's got unbelievable leadership qualities. Like, you can be a great player all you want. You got to get other guys to follow you. And, he's able to get those other guys and lead them and really, really, make things happen. He's tremendous player.
Great to see you as always. Great to talk hoop with you. Have a safe week of travels, and we will touch base back with you a week from today, Coach. Thank you as always.
Sounds good. Look forward to it.
There it is. The Will Wade Podcast, weekly here, a part of FM Digital Media. Make sure and tune in next week, and we'll be back with more of our weekly installments of Coach Wade Talking Hoop right here on FM Digital Media.
All right, we good?